The world's eyes are on London today as Prince William and Kate Middleton tie the knot in a lavish ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Thousands of police officers have been deployed in one of the biggest security operations in the UK. During preemptive action, more than 40 people were arrested. We're joined now by a friend of one of those arrested protesters, Silky Carlo, joining us from Cambridge. Good to have you with us. So Scotland Yard made a number of arrests in the run-up to the wedding. Your friend Charlie was arrested for conspiring to cause a public nuisance and breach of peace. What do you make of the police approach to the protesters against the wedding?
Well, essentially, I think it's fascist. I mean, that's a strong word, but I don't use it lightly. There's been around 100 pre-crime arrests, which is not something you come to expect in a democracy. And these are people that were really planning on just voicing their opinion and opposing the monarchy. Unprecedented.
Now, millions of pounds of taxpayers' money has been spent on these preparations, security and the ceremony, and the government's austerity cuts have left many Brits, as you probably know, struggling financially. Do you think the scale of the ceremony was appropriate given the economic situation facing the country?
Well, it just really rubs it in the face of the public that we do live in a very hierarchical system, a very unfair system, and one that promotes inequality and poverty. I mean, it's thought that the cakes at the wedding are costing around $133 per slice. There's been about 24 million British pounds just spent on security by public funds. And yet at the same time, there are cuts being made for disabled people, for students. So it really highlights and illuminates the deep, deep problems that we have in this country.
But how much support is there for the British monarchy at the moment? Certainly this wedding and the spectacle around it has bolstered the effect and the feeling and the emotion toward the royal family at this time, don't you think?
I think for some people, perhaps it does. I think it's been a little bit overestimated. I think there are a lot of people who don't care and who are taking the opportunity to have street parties and come together, and that's a nice thing. But also in this day and age, I feel that nationalism is maybe something that people can cling on to hold us together, because what else is there at the moment holding this country together? There are deep, deep cultural problems. And what does the monarchy symbolise, though? I mean, when I think of the monarchy, I think of poverty, of colonialism, imperialism. These are not things that I think should be continued. They're things that need to be changed.
But you also said that the monarchy is something that's keeping the British people together at this moment. So shouldn't this have been a day of celebration rather than one of protest? Well,
keeping some people together. Clearly, the picture shows that it's been incredibly divisive, and that the police, rather than listening to those who oppose the monarchy, are shutting them up. And that's why my boyfriend's been arrested and is now at an undisclosed location. We don't even know where he is. It's like a snatch and grab. And there have been many of these. So the police are more concerned with shutting up the opposition and promoting this idea of great unity and support for the monarchy, which is false. I mean, there were only about 3 or 4. There were very few people out in London today protesting, and I think there are about 25 arrests of breach of the peace. Now, normally in protests in London, you'll see hundreds of thousands of people protesting, running through the streets, making themselves heard. On this occasion, not many. It's eerie, and the reason is because there's been pre-crime arrests and people turned away at train stations and fear tactics used by the police.
But don't you think it's also because at the same time, in a general sense, it's a wedding that's going on here? If this were your wedding, for example, wouldn't you prefer that there not be people showing up to protest it?
Well, I'm glad that there are people to attempt to protest, because we're supposed to live in a democracy and we're supposed to support free speech. It's not just a celebration of love. We're all for love. That's what anarchists believe in. But it's actually a great symbol of wealth. It's a very opulent affair. So it's a lot more than just a wedding.
All right. Silky Carlo joining us from Cambridge. Thanks for that.
Thank you.